a person who came an awful lot closer to actually signing. TNA had been planning, tentatively, for months that Mick Foley would be part of its first telecast on Spike TV. After months of Foley's agent negotiating with TNA, the offer was then taken to Vince McMahon to beat, and then he beat it, offering a multi-year 7-figure deal that gives Mick Foley a lot more creative control over his character and how he does outside commitments.
That's great for Mick Foley. Foley 2 in 2005. Let's have a look. He wrestled once in 2005 for WWE.
What was that match?
No, he did two. He wrestled against Carlito at Taboo Tuesday as Mankind, 7 minutes. And he wrestled against John Bradshaw Layfield for 2 minutes in a no-holds-barred match on Holiday with the Troops. He did, however, take 3 outside bookings, where he wrestled at the Mark Curtis Memorial Reunion, where he teamed with Shane Douglas to defeat Al Snow and D'Lo Brown and win the Tri-Cities Tag Team titles. He also wrestled at Wrestle Reunion 2, teaming with the Midnight Express. The Midnight Express defeated Mick Foley and the Funk Brothers. Is there any chance that was actually good?
No.
It went 15 minutes.
There's no chance that was actually good.
And then he did a show in the West Midlands where he did a hardcore elimination match. Mick Foley, Paul Travel, Steve Corino, and the Sandman defeated Alex Shane, Iceman, Martin Stone, and Styx.
What a year for Mick Foley.
And he got 7 figures.
Yeah, because he was out of contract, obviously, which is why you could do all those matches, and he was a Ring of Honor regular at this stage, popping up in Ring of Honor a lot.
He was doing the stuff with Punk, and that's when he started recommending Punk and Joe to WWE.
Yeah, and like part of the reason he was like somewhat eager to go to TNA is like if he wanted to do another match, he wanted to wrestle Joe.
Yeah, and then of course next year at Mania he does the Edge match.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. Because like Mick Foley would have made, I think, a big difference at this point, a lot bigger difference than he made in 2008 when he ended up going. Because like not only is he Mick Foley, not only is he one of the best talkers in the history of wrestling and an actual major star,
he's also one of the best wrestlers in wrestling history.
And he's also not washed yet.
Yeah. Because
like he's not too long after the match that made Randy Orton's career, and he's not too far away from the match that made Edge's career. So
he only wrestles a handful of times each year until 2009, and then he comes back and does his big run.
Yeah, he's a relative full-timer with TNA.
I'm looking forward to seeing the Mick Foley TNA run.
I think it's underrated.
I've seen a couple matches, and I'm like, he's still pretty good. He's Mick Foley.
And like his promo stuff is awesome. He does like some actual top-tier promo stuff in TNA that no one really remembers or cares about.
He also shoots on Bubba the Love Sponge, which is maybe one of the greatest moments in TNA history.
That is up there. But I don't even think Mick gives his own TNA run enough credit for like it being pretty good.
It is. I mean, I remember it quite fondly, at least.
Foley had told friends he was glad when his previous WWE contract expired a few years ago, citing a desire to book his own life and not have to follow a schedule thrust upon him. Once he was a free agent, he became further disillusioned with WWE's treatment of him, as he told friends he felt underappreciated and taken for granted. That frustration is what led him to want to help TNA out of the gate if they got a TV deal. TNA, though, was unable to make an offer that would match WWE's, so Foley stayed with WWE with his first match.
I'm sorry, 7 figures.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm just learning that Foley's last match was a Rumble appearance.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, well, it's a shame considering, like, for a while there they were planning to introduce Mox against him. And that would have been probably his last match, which would have been sort of perfect.
Yeah, and like there's a reason he hasn't done a match since, but...
Yeah. But it would have been nice if, like, his last match was putting over sort of the next top-tier pro wrestling brawler in America.
Because he talks a lot about it. If you listen to his podcast when he's talking about his TNA run, he talks a lot about how he was getting concussed a lot.
Yeah.
Like, for bumps that would be normal bumps. Like, that's the thing he was talking about, like, that really scared him. Like, a lot of the time when he would get a concussion, it would make sense. You know, you would take a hard shot to the head and you'd get a concussion. And you'd be like, you know, I shouldn't do that. But during his TNA run, he talked a lot about how, like, he'd take just a normal bump and get concussed. And he was like, at that point, he was like, oh, that's really scary.
Yeah. He's actually someone who has done remarkably well in his later life in comparison to all the shit he put his body through.
Yeah. I'm sure his day-to-day probably doesn't feel the same way, but...
Yeah. But, like, comparably to the sort of stuff he did, he actually got out pretty fine.
I watched the WWE posted that thing with him and Undertaker watching the Hell in a Cell match yesterday.
Oh, how was that?
I was like, oh, that's fun.
I was actually, as I was watching a little bit of the Edge 25-year retrospective thing that they put up, I was like talking about how it's so interesting that like wrestling and kayfabe has just become like different. Like it's just a different thing now. And on like the biggest pro wrestling medium possible. Like, they're just like, oh yeah, here's all the stuff we worked through, and here's what we did, and you know what I mean? Like, it's just an interesting, like, this is what pro wrestling is now. It's like full acknowledgement of it being a performance.
Yeah, where just the two lads sit down and talk through the match.
Yeah, which is why, like, I sort of disagree with the wrestling requires you to suspend your disbelief thing. I don't think that's true. I don't think I need to... I don't think I ever suspend my disbelief.
I think that's true within the context of the television show itself.
Oh yeah, like, the show needs to be presented as if everything is real. But as a fan, I don't think I need to be watching it and going, this is real for me to enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't need anybody playing their character on social media or any of that shit. Like, no. That annoys me more than anything else. I'm like, stop.
Yeah, as long but when it's the actual television show being produced, of course, you have to keep it all within universe. That's how pro wrestling works, and it falls apart if you go out of the universe, even not in a kayfabe sense. But the thing that I sort of, bounce against is this idea that for wrestling to be good and for someone to enjoy it, you need to be watching it and thinking, like, within that context. Because I don't think I do. I think I can be watching something in any sort of way, and, like, I never actually have to be like, they look at them really doing the thing.
It's the reason I hate work shoots more than anything. It's like, you don't have to convince me this is real. At like no point do you really have to convince me this is real. In the same way you don't have to convince me any television show or movie is real. Like, I'm willing to watch the show and think these guys want to fight and hurt each other within the context of the show. Like, I believe that already when I watch the show. I get their characters that want to fight. I understand this. You don't have to, like, fake shit to convince me of that. You don't have to be like, no guys, this one's actually real. They really hate each other. It's like, no, you could just be like, that guy hates each other, that guy, they're gonna fight. Because it's a TV show and I'm watching a TV show.
You don't need to tell me, because if they do hate each other, I'll know.
Yeah, they start hitting each other. What's going on? Why are they hitting each other?
Yeah, like, ooh, that one looked a little rough. Hangman is shooting.
So yeah, I do hate the, like, trying to work reality into the actual show itself. It's like, stop it.
Like, there's levels to it, I think. I don't mind some of it, but...
Just do your show!
Yeah. And, like, you can draw off of real things. Because, like, I think... a lot of the time, a lot of great characters and moments come from real life things, but you don't have to be like, this is an actual thing that's happening.
Yeah, that this is real. Like, stop it. Babies.
Yeah, you hate Prince Devitt.
I do. I only support Finn Balor in the Judgment Day and Dom Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
Mick Foley told Between the Ropes Radio that he was very close to signing a TNA deal before accepting a WWE offer. He said his TNA role would have been as a figurehead commissioner who would also wrestle a couple of matches, so keep that in mind for 2008. He said he hopes the TNA show on Spike would be a success without him and provide healthy competition for TNA. He said he did not use TNA's offer to get more money from WWE, an apparent reference to creative control and better publicity for side projects being his major incentive to return to WWE instead of TNA. But also he did go like, hey, TNA offered me this. And maybe he did that as a courtesy call. He's like, hey, I'm going to TNA. They offered me this. And then Vince is like, no, here, have this instead. And he's like, oh, fine.
Have everything.
But he did call Vince.
Yeah.
Though, based on the Wrestling Observer's statement of events, I would believe the conversation with Vince is what convinced him more than anything. Because Dave says McMahon wasn't happy and the two had a lengthy conversation with McMahon being persuasive, noting he considered WWE as Foley's home, and that McMahon changed the perception of what he considered a wrestling star to look like, which set the table for Foley's career taking off. And it was also noted that WWE was the more stable organization, as there's no guarantee TNA will be around. And then after several phone calls with McMahon, Foley called Jarrett, who was doing the bulk of negotiating, and told him he was going back to WWE. So it sounds like, for as much as they offered creative control and money, Vince also blew a whole bunch of smoke up Foley's ass.
Vince McMahon is one of the greatest at jacking someone off.
These people have such a weird relationship with Vince, where, like, because wrestling is such like an island of misfit toys, kind of collective group, Vince has become a father figure for so many of these people, and that is an abusive relationship, no matter what.
Yeah, if it was just money and creative control, it would be way more understanding, but it's like this weird parasocial dynamic that they have with them.
They all need its approval.
They all need Papa Vince's approval.
They just need the head pats from Papa Vince.
Well, that's the same reason 85% of these people still defend him after his heinous crimes.
That's true. That is sadly true.